Maybe you'll be able to find an out of context clip from this conversation that could be the cold open. I don't remember everything we said, but there could have been like some gems.
That's what I do, man. That's how I do it.
Yep. I know, asshole. That's why I said it. You think I don't know how they find cold opens for podcasts? Like, you listen to it and you write down the timestamp. Like, oh, this is funny out of context. Like, I get it. I'm smart.
Welcome back, De Niro Nation, to our Hero De Niro, the only podcast that is watching and recapping Robert De Niro's entire filmography in random order. I'm Mike, and with me, as always, is Mike.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, and today we are going to answer a simple question. How little can two men have to say about a film, as we discuss 2013's Killing Season? Mike, we both didn't know about this movie beforehand. Did you have any familiarity with the creative team here, Evan Daughtery, the writer, or Mark Steven Johnson, the director?
Certainly didn't. Did you?
I did, as a matter of fact. So Mark Steven Johnson, I was surprised to see that he wrote the Grumpy Old Men films way back when, but he directed two comic book films, Daredevil and Ghost Rider. Have you seen either of those, the Ben Affleck Daredevil or the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider?
No.
They're bad.
I'm sure they are.
So this film, I was surprised to hear that he was like an actual legitimate Hollywood director, because this film has major straight to VOD energy.
God, does it ever?
This is an action thriller film starring Robert De Niro and John Travolta in their first on-screen pairing, for anyone who was looking forward to that.
Did you laugh during this movie?
I watched this movie yesterday and I honestly can't remember. I think I was just incredibly bored through the entire thing. Yep. And this was a huge bomb. It received negative reviews from critics and only made $1.1 million at the box office.
That's like way too much, honestly. I would have been so pissed if I spent money to go see this.
Right. You can do the math, whatever the average ticket price was in 2013, and you can see exactly how many people were duped into watching that film.
Close
based
to
on
100,000 people.
Right.
You know, like, I mean, a lot of people. That's depressing.
That's the power of, star power of having those big names, De Niro and Travolta, in your film.
And what's fascinating about it is I feel like neither of them is very good in this movie. No, I mean, that's the amazing thing is like all the bad movies we've watched. I'm like, yeah, I mean, at least De Niro was really good, but like, I don't know, this is his worst performance of any film we've seen so far, by far. Like, it's really a beautiful work of art. Yeah.
I have a challenge I want to propose for this episode.
All right.
We received some feedback from a part-time listener of the podcast, Caroline's mom.
Part-time?
Well.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So she expressed some displeasure at her level of cursing in the podcast, which is clearly marked as explicit in every podcast app. But I was wondering, do you think we could go an entire episode without swearing?
I do.
I don't know if I can, especially talking about this movie.
Yeah, I mean, you have to remember, I never swear at work, you know?
I never swear at work either, but
that's where I do most of my talking. That's not where you do most of your talking.
No.
Oh yeah, I talk 10 times as much in a work context than I do in a personal context. All I do is talk. I talk all day.
I just mentally, I don't think of this as work, you know?
Yeah, I put myself in that compartment.
I'm shooting yes with my buddy Mike, no relation.
Sure.
If I do notice any swears when I'm going through the edit, I'm going to add a little buzzer noise next to it. So we'll see.
Yep. It's a fun challenge. I hope, I hope Caroline's mom, my mother-in-law, I hope she enjoys this episode. I'm going to make sure she listens to it.
We're doing it for her.
Can't imagine this is a film that's I don't think this one's going to entice her when she's looking at the when she's looking at the episode drop. I don't think 2013's Killing Season about the Bosnian War is going to attract her. But I'll let her know.
I don't think it's going to attract anyone. Nobody watched this film. This is going to be our least listened to episode ever. But I'm going to get right into
it. Make it short. Right?
We're going to try. Yeah. I'm going to try to make it short. There really is so little to say about this film because it is essentially, what if the hunting in The Most Dangerous Game lasted for 5 minutes? It's kind of just like that.
Yeah. I don't think I agree with that review, actually.
Yeah.
So I just want to say what I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the problem is actually just the opposite. It's what if 5 minutes of the tension and emotion and action of The Most Dangerous Game was extrapolated out to be 65 minutes long? Like, it's like my problem with this film is that nothing fucking happens. And
That's a swear.
It just takes so long for nothing to happen. And the only stuff that does happen is like, honestly, like pretty gruesome torture porn that I found unpleasant to watch. So it's like, even when something was happening, like I wasn't enjoying myself. I found the torture scenes really unpleasant. Did you find the torture scenes unpleasant?
I found it very unpleasant to watch for many reasons, and that was one of them.
Oh my God, they're brutal.
Yeah. So let's get into the the recap of Killing Season. So yes, this is a film about the Bosnian War. So we get a little opening narration, or not narration, like title cards about the Serbian invasion into Bosnia, how it was the biggest genocide since World War II, kind of establishing the scene back in the mid-90s. We get flashback, shaky cam, really tinted shots of presumably Bosnia back then. We see NATO soldiers intervening in 1995, and they're lining people up for execution.
So I have my first comment already. So I'm just going to interrupt you when I wrote.
Please do. I think that's great. I think that's nice.
I feel like this movie is so bad immediately in the first couple minutes. There's two things about this opening montage that I think are like unbelievable. One, the orange color grading. Like,
yes,
this isn't the worst color grading in this film. There's some later that is just like egregious, but like the fact that it's in the first shot is so bad. And then also I was thinking about Heat while I was watching this scene, because much like Heat has the best gunfire sound design I've ever heard in a film, I'm pretty sure this scene had the worst gunfire sound design I've ever heard in a film. Like, it was amazing how hollow all of the gunshots sounded on my, as we have discussed, pretty good sound system. Like, I was alone in the house when I watched this movie. I was bumping it, and it did not sound good. It was not a good experience.
Yeah, I watched on my computer with my nice new computer speakers, relatively new, and yeah, it leaves a lot to be desired. The digital effects as well are very cheap, very obviously, muzzle flashes added in post, that low level of detail. So we see people being executed.
Really, and I'm going to tell you when I laughed, by the way. When we get there, I laughed once. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. We see De Niro. He hesitates to execute someone who is a young John Travolta and ends up shooting him in the back. So we go to Serbia, present day, and now we're getting different color grading. It's much cooler. And John Travolta walks into a bar, and this is not the setup for.
Laugh. It was when I saw John Travolta's facial hair.
Sure. Let's talk about it right now. He has a really short buzz cut with jet black hair and a chin strap, like a thick chin strap. And it is an unbelievably bad look.
It's really funny. And what else is really funny about it is, I don't know if you even picked up on this because you might have been totally checked out, but at the end of the movie, when we see him in his little coda scene, he's grown in a mustache. So he has like a normal beard. And it's like, yeah, man, you look a lot better. Like, what?
Yeah.
You need to have this experience in your life to not look silly. I found that like a fascinating like makeup choice they made.
You know what's really funny? I did not notice. I was that checked out by the end. You interrupted me. I was going to say John Travolta walks into a bar and this isn't the setup for a bad joke. But whatever, that moment has passed. He meets some guy and looks through files of NATO, like pictures of NATO soldiers, like clandestine, whatever, pictures. And we get our first, I'm going to count it as the first De Niro face reveal. It's in a photo at 5 minutes and 7 seconds. And he plays Colonel Benjamin Ford. So Travolta stops on that photo. I guess he had a really good look at the guy who was standing behind him in the firing squad.
Fascinating, right?
Yeah, incredible. Yeah. And he mentions that he's waited 18 years to hunt this guy. Then we get the title credits, which is kind of fun. I kind of like when there's a little scene before the credits. And it's like over footage of some pretty woods. We are definitely shooting in Georgia here. This is very much like a tax credit film. De Niro's outside and he's just looking around. He builds a little...
Can I make another comment?
It's the point of the podcast. I was about to swear.
You're talking really fast. So I'm like, you're talking really fast. I know you're trying to go fast. You're doing a really good job, just so you know. I think that the only good thing about this movie, literally the only good thing about it, is there is some incredible nature cinematography in this film. Like, some of the nature shots are like, they're beautiful. There's some really fun nature stuff in this film. There are also some very fun and beautiful nature shots in the opening credits montage. But it's really interesting. They chose to run the pan so fast that it's like kind of nauseating to watch. Like, I was like, what were they thinking? Like, they have these like beautiful like drone shots, presumably, of of this like wilderness, and it's like the drone's going like 60 miles an hour. You can't see anything. Like, why are you going so fast?
You know what I honestly think it was? I wonder if they were trying to keep it like super close to 90 minutes. This film is only 91 minutes long. I wonder if it was like,
yeah, and they just had the footage.
It was something, something that they just adjusted in editing. I agree with you. When we talk about the ending, I'm excited to return to your comment about those pretty nature shots. So we get a montage of De Niro. He lives in the woods. He has a cabin. He builds a little hut to camouflage himself, and he takes pictures of elk as they bash against each other with their giant antlers. And when he's kind of crouching, we learn that he has a bad knee or leg situation. He kind of winces in pain. So we see him, we see him going home to his cabin. He's developing pictures, taking aspirin, just kind of living his very solitary kind of life. He's a woodsman, and he gets a phone message from his son on his answering machine, if you can remember what those were. And as his son is leaving him a message basically saying, hey, our newborn son that you haven't met yet is getting baptized tomorrow, and we sent you an invitation and you haven't confirmed, and it sure would be nice to see you there. So De Niro picks up the phone halfway through the message, and this is when we are introduced to his accent. So they're both him and Travolta are doing accents in this film. Travolta's is certainly much worse, but De Niro is doing this light Southern accent that kind of fades in and out depending on what he's saying. It wasn't really believable to me. This, to me, as you mentioned, it felt like a kind of a phoned in performance. I'm being generous here, but it was very similar to his performance in Savage Salvation, where they're like, okay, we're shooting in Georgia. Yeah, we're shooting in Georgia because we get crazy tax credits. And, if you want to play Southern, you're welcome to. And he's like, I have just the thing. I have been working on the perfect Southern accent, and I'm going to unleash it upon you in this straight to VOD level junk. Travolta's accent is really egregious. He sounds like every stereotype of an Eastern European person that you've ever heard. And it's really bad, very distracting.
Yeah, so a couple comments. One, I'm looking down the list. I would say that this movie makes Savage Salvation look like the score. That's my that's my comparison between this and Savage Salvation. It's incredible that something was able to do that. This movie's really bad. I recognize objectively that Travolta's accent is worse, but I just have less exposure to people with Eastern European accents than I do people with accents from the American South. So I found De Niro's accent more grating. Like it was easier for me to suspend disbelief about Travolta's accent because it's like I don't know. I don't know a lot of Eastern European people like with those kinds of accents still so strong.
That's fair. I think I found De Niro's less annoying because it was so light. There were some points where I wondered, like, is he still doing the accent? And then it would come
like
back.
He forgot it sometimes.
Yeah. The director forgot to mention, hey, you sound totally different right now, Bob. Can I call you Bob? Thank you so much.
You sound like an Italian New York native. That's not the voice we're looking for here. You got put the Queen's accent away,
Exactly. So now we have the meet cute between De Niro and Travolta's characters. Travolta plays a guy named Emil, so I might call him that. De Niro's driving and his car breaks down. And Emil just is clearly orchestrated by him, but he happens to stop by and offer help. He's doing his goofy accent, and De Niro is not interested in any help. He drives away in a storm. And this is where I started commenting on how horrible the cinematography of this film is, because they definitely shot day for night, which I guess for anyone who doesn't know this term, in some movies, I think the best possible example of this, the best it can be done, is the Jordan Peele film Nope, which shot all of its nighttime scenes during the day and then filtered it to make it look like nighttime. But in general, it is a technique where you shoot your night scenes during the day and then you filter it or tint it or whatever in post to try and make it look like nighttime. The problem here is the shadows are very obvious. They just apply a really ugly deep blue filter and it looks so fake. It was impossible for me to suspend. I was like, they are shooting this at 3 p.m. Right. It is egregious. So yeah. It's really letting you know how cheap this effing film is.
This part at the beginning, this really isn't even that bad. There is a particular point where they do a day for night shoot later in the film, closer to the climax, where it was just like, I honestly couldn't believe it. that they published.
I think
so bad.
I think I know what you're talking about, because that was the point where I truly checked out at the film, because I could barely tell what was happening on screen.
It couldn't be better. This is the best the movie could possibly be, and it's so bad.
It is almost Alien versus Predator Requiem levels of bad, unintelligible action. So De Niro feels a little guilty. He turns around. He offers a ride to Emil, who's like posing as a hunter with a bow, and he's just kind of hiking, so he doesn't have a car. So Emil's being chummy.
You're missing mentioning something here. He feels bad because he's out of aspirin. That's why he's out, right?
That's
and
right.
His pain in his leg is flaring up, and that's why, or what he tells Emil is why he was shitty to him. Is that this is germane, right, to the plot. Like, his pain is acting up. He has this persistent leg pain from before.
So they go back to De Niro's cabin, and Emil tells him that he's there to hunt elk and invites De Niro on the hunt, but De Niro refuses. He really doesn't want to do anything. He told his son earlier that he wouldn't be able to make the baptism, which is kind of crazy. He has a lot going on tomorrow, and the son is like...
He tells Emil by way of response to his invite.
Exactly. And during the phone call with his son says, well, maybe we'll stop by and surprise you. And he goes, you better call first. It's so funny.
Yeah. One other note here, the son here is Milo Ventimiglia.
Yep, that's true.
Who of Heroes fame, right? He was the star of Heroes.
See, I never watched Heroes. I didn't know that.
Yeah, Milo Ventimiglia will again in the future, relative to this movie, will again become a big star, right? He's going to have a pretty big role in This Is Us. But it was funny watching this and thinking like, wow, his career really saw a rough patch here. Like, between like being the star of one of the biggest network TV shows of its time to being the star of one of the biggest network TV shows of its time, and like in the middle, he's just like got a small role in this movie. Like, it's like pretty funny. Like, it's not even one of the big roles.
I'm really glad you're mentioning that, because I didn't know who he was until after I watched the movie and I was reading about it. Yep. And during the film, I thought to myself, I feel bad for this guy playing the son. He's probably so excited to be working with De Niro and Travolta, but it's in this horrible purgatory of a really bad, cheap thriller film. He was fine.
He's honestly a super totally talented actor.
Yeah.
He's quite good in everything I've ever seen him in. Yeah, he's great.
I thought he was good in here too.
This Is Us is network TV.
I've never watched that show.
Like, it's very good network TV schlock, and Milo Ventimiglia is great in the role. It's really good.
So he comes out the winner of Killing Season.
He does. Yep.
So they're hanging out in De Niro's cabin, which also has incredibly ugly lighting. They apply this yellow pea filter to the whole thing. It looks so terrible. And they're comparing bows. And this is where I wrote in my notes, the lighting in here sucks too. And I just imagined like some intern going in Adobe After Effects and going filter, apply, yellow, save project, save scene. Emil brings out some Jägermeister and they do some shots. When is the last time you had a shot of Jägermeister?
I don't know. I'm sure we were together.
Probably.
But it's been a really long time.
Really long time. That had a moment. Yeah, real cultural moment.
I'm good, man. I thought about this while I was watching it. I was like, I never need to take another sip of Jaeger in my life. Like, I'm good.
I thought, how fun would it have been to have been able to have shots of Jägermeister while we were doing this podcast? Not that I actually want
I will say just about this part, this is probably the high point of the film for me.
Yeah.
I think that the two of them together, like, and even the beginning, I love the De Niro opening. It's very long. Like, the pacing of this movie is so bad. But, like, I liked the scene of De Niro, like, just establishing his lifestyle and, like, showing him doing the photography. And, like, I thought that was a great, like, slice of life montage.
Yeah.
And I think the two of them together in the cabin, terrible cinematography and direction aside, is also quite nice. Like, they've got good chemistry. Like, the conversation is believable. And I was just like, what is this movie? Like, what are we doing? I wrote De Niro as a real patsy for Travolta. That was my
agree
note on this scene. Like, he's like, he should be savvy, but he's a fucking dipshit. Like, he's just getting hammered with this guy. Like, this is so suspicious.
Do you think Emil sabotaged Ford's car?
I don't know, I was trying to figure that out.
How else could he have? What was his plan if De Niro's car didn't break down? He was just going to knock on his cabin door?
Yep.
Huh. Well, anyways, they talk a little bit about the war, the baby's baptism. De Niro mentions that his ex-wife is married.
And critically, this is another important thing that you got to make sure you mention. De Niro doesn't want to talk about the war. So Travolta's character is very comfortable talking about the war and like about his feelings on war, and De Niro doesn't want to talk about it. And that's like that is an annoyingly persistent refrain of the of the movie. is that
You gotta hit nine. Listen, they have 45 minutes of material and they have to stretch it to 90 minutes, 91 to be precise. But yes, De Niro's ex-wife is married to the best man at his wedding. That's pretty awkward. I would not be happy about that. But they've been married for 20 years, so we should really move past it. Very awkward.
You gotta get over it, dude. Like, he's the real husband now. Like, how long could you have been married to him? Milo Ventimiglia, I think, is probably only supposed to be like 30 in this movie.
Yeah.
So like, I don't think he was married to his ex-wife for more than 20 years. Like, I think you're the interloper now.
Yeah, and he's a weird recluse who lives in the woods. Yeah. So he doesn't want to meet his first grandchild. So the next morning, Ben, De Niro, and Emil Travolta, they're hiking through the woods. De Niro decided to hunt with him, I guess, instead of attending his grandchild's baptism. And
makes sense.
Yeah, at one point, De Niro hesitates to shoot an elk. He can't bring himself to do it. And Emil dramatically reveals that he knows who De Niro is. He says, "Colonel Ford, you've changed," but with a really bad accent. He takes a shot at De Niro, and De Niro falls off of whatever, like, ladder up a tree or whatever. I don't know the hunting terms. I apologize. If there are any hunting experts listening to the podcast, email us at ourherodeniro@gmail.com. Thank you. So De Niro falls out of a tree. As he was already 80 years old and crippled, and now he fell 10 feet out of a tree. So not necessarily the fairest hunt, in my opinion. And they have walkie-talkies, so they're able to stay in contact with each other throughout the course of this film. De Niro gets shot in the leg by an arrow.
I have something to say about this, just so you know.
Okay.
I found this fascinating. The conversation they have during the hunt feels so important. Like, it feels like talking to him was an important part of like what Emil's plan was. But De Niro's the one who brings the walkie-talkies. So like, what was Emil's plan if De Niro hadn't brought these walkie-talkies?
Oh, that's a really good question.
I was so confused by this. Like, it feels so central to the entire way he's conducting himself that they're getting to have this taunting conversation. It's like, I guess he just wasn't going to do that if De Niro hadn't happened to have these like really fancy voice activated walkie-talkies. It's very, this movie's so fucking stupid. Damn it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to have to add a lot of buzzes there. You're right. You know, Emil probably didn't want to check a bag. So he was trying to fit everything into a carry-on. He had the giant bow and arrows. So
it's just the bow. Yeah.
It's just a bow.
And the Jaeger.
Yeah, a bow, Jaeger.
I think the labeling on the Jaeger was Cyrillic. So I think that it seems like he flew it in. Like, he didn't buy that in Georgia.
Right. So this, I'm going to ask you about a moment coming up very shortly, but I have to comment on the cinematography here because I did actually laugh here. There were incredibly bad first person. When De Niro gets shot in the leg by the arrow, we get some incredibly bad shots of him rolling around on the ground in first person. So we literally just like we're on the ground and the camera's just rotating over and over. It looked so cheap. It was hilarious. But did you notice this? I was watching on Prime. It's available for free on Prime. And
that's where I watched it too. Yeah.
I saw a weird black screen at 35 minutes and 51 seconds. The screen was black for like half a second. I rewound. I went back multiple times and there was always like a noticeable just moment of blackness before it went to the next scene. And I wonder if that was just on my end or if it was just really poor editing.
I mean, I looked at my phone during this movie. I feel like it's possible I just wasn't looking at the TV when this happened. I didn't miss anything. Don't worry.
I need to go back
through. Really strong understanding of this movie, in spite of having sent some text messages. Yeah,
I want to go back in to that movie tonight in like Minority Report style and just turn my hands and scrub it back and forth, just like adjust the camera angle like I'm in pre-crime.
God, is there somebody you could have imprisoned, for the pre-crime of making this film to prevent it from being released?
We need to go back in time 13 years before this movie came out and just arrest Mark Steven Johnson for crimes against film.
We are arresting individuals who have broken no law.
But they will.
Oh my God.
So anyways, Emil, so De Niro is trying to hobble away and he stumbles into some old busted building and Emil...
So I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have something else I need to say at this part. I'm just noticing when you're passing.
We're still at the same part. Yeah.
I found this entire sequence fascinating. Maybe you didn't notice it because you're not commenting on it, but it's like this chase montage is quite long. Everything in this movie is quite long, right? They're dragging it all out. But like in this chase montage, Emil is eternally 20 to 40 feet behind De Niro. And like De Niro is like, he's got like a really messed up leg. How is he not catching him? Like it completely took all the tension out of the scene because it's like it just like the symmetry of the scene and like the way it's blocked and the way they're moving like just doesn't make any sense. Like he should have caught him like 10 times in the time that De Niro was hobbling away from him, but somehow he's farther away than ever when he walks into the building that you're describing him walking into.
You're right. And the note that I was about to say that you interrupted, I literally wrote Emil walking slowly like the Terminator. Why can't I do this? I'm fucking dead, man. The Terminator. I got it. I want to swear right now, but I can't.
You did, just so you know.
I did?
You did swear. Yeah.
Oh, no.
You said, I'm fucking dead.
Oh, I'm going to have to buzz both of those. Well, I guess it's all staying in the edit. Anyways, so I agree. It's really bizarre that Emil wants to, whatever. This plan makes no sense. We're going to talk all about it. So they're in this like dilapidated building and Emil, he actually says he wants to shoot the S. I can't repeat the word because I'm trying not to swear in this episode. And this is part of the gratuitous torture porn that you were referring to. Emil makes De Niro put, what is it? Like a stake on a string
like a
through his
cable, like
through
a steel cable and like some kind of rubber, I think.
Yeah. Through the wound in his thigh.
It is horrible.
It's yes. And Emil pulls him up, like basically pulls him up over a bar or something by the leg. So De Niro's dangling. And Emil says that he wants a confession from De Niro and then says that he's going to gut De Niro, but he gets way too close to De Niro. So De Niro manages to hit him, falls to the ground. They get into some scuffle where, again, you're right. De Niro is incredibly crippled and he's old. He's old and crippled, but he manages to fall into some raging whitewater river. And right before he's about to go over, right before he's about to go over like a Lion King sized waterfall, he manages to stop himself on a wet rock, which I don't think would be possible.
This waterfall is like bigger than the waterfall in Up. Like it's like a joke waterfall. Like, does this exist? I guess it must, right? Because it's practical. But like, I didn't know there was a waterfall this big besides Niagara Falls in the continental United States. Honestly, like it is huge.
So De Niro manages to escape the raging whitewater rapids, and he's escaped Emil for now. So he gets out, he finds a cave, he starts a fire because he has those survival skills. And this is a great time to mention that every episode of Survivor Man is available for free on YouTube. Really great show. You ever watch Survivor Man? Oh,
I never.
And you
have.
know what?
Yeah.
It's a fantastic show, and it's really great. Like before bed content because it's just one man alone in the wilderness. It's incredible. No fakery either. He's by himself and sets up every shot. So every time he walks away from the camera, you get to think about how he had to walk back to pick up the camera. Yeah, really incredible. It's so anyway, Survivor Man. Survivor Man is my non-film recommendation for this week.
Yeah, it would have been funny if it was just your recommendation.
I just thought of it now. Watch the entirety of Survivor Man. The next morning, De Niro's hiking, and they still have their walkie-talkie, so they're able to taunt each other, essentially. And Travolta monologues. I didn't even write anything about the monologue because I couldn't bear to listen to him talk for that long with that accent. And while this is happening, I don't know how far away they are from De Niro's cabin, but De Niro's son rolls up to De Niro's cabin unannounced.
So hang on. There's something I want to mention about this. This is something that I noted. I find this entire series of events, just from a timing perspective, mystifying. Did this make any sense to you? De Niro goes into the cave. He's like finding food. He's like resting. He's convalescing. He's making this bow. He's making the arrows. How long was this supposed to take? It seems like it would take days. But like even if it took 6 hours, which feels like the shortest amount of time it could possibly take, wouldn't Travolta have found him?
You would think so. Well, he escaped down the rapids. Maybe he just, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. It just seems like he'd be a pretty experienced tracker, right? Like and again, I think it took days. So like, maybe you found him? Like I found this baffling, this section of the film, but sure.
I think it's all
back
baffling.
to Milo Ventimiglia.
I agree with you, yeah. So De Niro's son and his family, his wife and newborn baby, they drop in, but De Niro obviously isn't home. I think it's very funny that the son made this decision to drop in on De Niro the day after De Niro said, don't do that. Call first. I guess he knew that's how he...
I don't know if it was supposed to be the day after, though, because I kind of think it was supposed to be days that he was in the cave.
You think it was days? We only saw one. We only saw, like, when we cut to that scene, it's daytime. I don't know. It's hard to know. It's hard to know what they were intending.
Yeah. Well, and how could Milo Ventimiglia have come? It's the shower that day. I don't think
the shower
the next day.
The shower was the day that they went hunting, right?
Right. That's what I'm saying. So, like, I think this is now the next day.
Milo came the next day. Right. That's what I'm saying.
Right. So
only one night has passed.
One night that they've been in the woods.
It's been one night. Yes. Okay. We're on the same page. So I didn't understand the spatial whatever setup of this scene, because when Milo and his family are looking around the cabin trying to find De Niro, both De Niro and Travolta converge on the cabin at the same time and see De Niro's son and family, which I thought was absolutely insane. Because you're right, like, how much distance did they cover? How did De Niro hobble? Why did De Niro think to go back to his cabin? What was he hoping to find? Or like gain?
Right,
Emil knows. Right. Emil knows that's where he lives. So super bizarre, but Emil threatens to kill De Niro's family. And so De Niro agrees to go mano a mano to get him to stop doing that. He says, "You want a war? Come and get it." So now it's finally on. We're hunting the most dangerous game. And none of these decisions make any sense to me. This movie makes no sense. Emil, right after De Niro agrees to hunt each other to the death, Emil stops and takes a break to open some wine. And De Niro shoots Emil immediately. I mean, we just agreed to start doing this. And Emil's first reaction is, "I'm going to stand in one spot and get a little drunk." What is this? What is this script?
And it's so much that I didn't expect him to have been successfully shot. Like, I was just like, narratively,
Same.
This can't be the way he gets shot. It's way too stupid. But spoiler alert, he was shot, and it is the impetus for like the next torture sequence.
Yeah. So Travolta gets shot right through the cheek, so he has a hole in his mouth, and De Niro cuts the arrow, and we cut to black. So Emil wakes up, and he's restrained in De Niro's cabin, kind of Dexter style a little bit, and De Niro, they're talking, they're having a conversation in that yellow A cabin. And De Niro is making lemonade the whole time, but instead of putting in sugar, he's putting in an entire container of iodized salt. And I noted I was just going to note, that's why it's so important to taste as you cook. You know, I think De Niro, he didn't realize that he was putting the wrong ingredient in. That's what I was going to say. I was making a bad joke.
He was putting the wrong ingredient in.
You're trying to talk over me.
Right?
Yep.
But my observation about this scene is that this is, I think, the most egregious thing in the movie, vis-a-vis them dragging shit out to hit that 91-minute runtime, because he pours the salt for like 90 seconds. Like, it shows the entire amount of time it would actually take to pour a canister of salt. A normal filmmaker would truncate it. Like, the audience will realize, like, if we start with him with the full one and end 10 seconds later with a little bit coming out and then nothing else happening, the audience will realize that was all of it. But these filmmakers thought we needed to see the whole thing, start to finish, poured into the lemonade.
No, I totally agree. And I think that when it comes to scenes like that, torture scenes in films, the thing about scenes like this, torture scenes in films, is a lot of the times your imagination is more effective and scary than actually showing the violence. And so fixating on a shot of this salty lemonade being poured all over Travolta's gaping mouth wound, I don't think is as effective as just cutting to, looking at De Niro's face while he's pouring the lemonade or something like that and hearing Travolta scream.
I agree.
So again, it's just, not only is it gratuitous and too long and honestly kind of boring because it goes so long, it's just ineffective. It's not, it's such incompetent filmmaking, but it's just gross. It's just gross.
I have something to say about this scene. It's my favorite line in the movie. You like that? Huh? How's it feel to be the one being tortured? It's like, who would say that to someone? It's like maybe the worst line in any film we've watched for the podcast so far. Like, I could not believe that it was written in the script and then said by De Niro, that he was like, yeah, I'll say this one. This line's fine.
Yeah, and De Niro does not sell it. This might be the worst performance we've seen from him so far in the podcast, right?
That's not a might. Yeah, for sure.
So De Niro, these people have a tendency to get too close to each other during torture, during enhanced interrogation.
They really do.
So
Yeah.
Emil admits that he made torture tools in the war, and he manages to break free, beat up the frail, old, crippled man, Robert De Niro, takes a bow, and then we're back outside. I'm so disappointed that they went back outside during the nighttime. I'm using air quotes. I would have much rather this happen at like 4 p.m., but we're back to this horrible. This is where the lighting, to me, it seemed like a dead art. It was barely possible to make out what was happening because it was so dark and blue and boring. And this is where I started checking out big time. But I don't know, something happens where they're having a conversation, but they're in a truck. They're in De Niro's truck and it rolls off a cliff for some reason. The scuffle continues afterward, and De Niro has the upper hand. He's shooting incendiary rounds out of a shotgun, which is honestly kind of cool. Reminded me of Call of Duty. And he runs out of ammo. Cool. He runs out of ammo right before he can kill Emil. So we're getting a lot of these.
Terrible timing.
Yeah, exactly. Emil ironically says he sees red, which is ironic because this is a Blue A movie. I'm blue, I can't actually say the full thing, but it's one of those films. They keep talking, they keep fighting. It goes on for some time, and De Niro ends up at another rundown building with a busted piano in it. He's on the run. He's running from Emil, but he goes into this room where there's an old piano and he plays some keys, which I thought seemed like a bad idea if you're trying to escape some murderous lunatic who is actively hunting you like your game.
These characters are not smart.
No, they're not very smart characters. Emil busts in with a shotgun, but De Niro has managed to rig a trap, and he brings the roof of this busted old cabin down on top of Emil. Here's what's really another interesting decision in the plot of this film. The roof comes down on Emil. He's pinned. He's been pinned by these logs or whatever. But somehow, mere seconds later, De Niro ends up on the ground and Emil is fine and no longer covered by rubble. It makes no sense. But Emil says he still wants...
I think you must have looked at your phone for a second, because I'm pretty sure what happened was like Emil had his arm free, and I think he punches De Niro in the leg or something and knocks him down. And then I think in that lull, he's able to kind of force the logs off of himself. It was depicted on screen. It made sense to me.
Okay, gotcha. So Emil still wants a confession, and he's closing in with a shotgun. Again, why are you getting so close? De Niro, this is the ultimate example of it in this 91-minute long film. Emil wants his confession, and he is walking towards De Niro with a shotgun, right? Which I understand has a short effective range compared to many other guns.
Yeah, but it's 10 or 15 feet, It's not 4 feet.
Emil gets so close to De Niro that De Niro, on the ground, is able to grab the barrel of the shotgun, pull it down, and quickly stabs Emil with a knife that he had hidden. And
it wasn't a knife. He pulled the shrapnel out of the wound in his leg.
That's right.
Yes.
Either way.
It's another disgusting gore scene.
Yeah, but fortunately it's so dark you can barely see what's happening. Now, during this moment, I thought to myself, if I'm Travolta...
during the day, I think. The final scene between them? With the shrapnel. No. I think that was a daytime shot.
It took place at night. It took place at night because the next scene takes place in the daytime.
All right.
Oh my God. Anyway,
I'm gonna go back and check. Yep. All right.
So when this moment happens and De Niro stabs Travolta, I thought to myself, obviously, I've never been in this position before, but if I'm holding the shotgun point blank at someone and anything startling happens, aren't you just going to pull the trigger reflexively? If a bee flew by, I'd pull the trigger reflexively. I thought it was so interesting that Travolta allows himself to be pulled down and stabbed and doesn't pull the trigger and end this. But
hey, just so you know, I just checked. You were right about the timing of the scene.
Real-time updates. Thank you. I appreciate that. So now it's the next day. Emil wakes up again because no one wants to kill anyone in this movie that's about hunting people for sport or for revenge.
It means omerta. It means rewenge.
And Now De Niro finally opens up in monologues about the war. We get some flashbacks. I blacked out during this. De Niro eventually says that he hated himself during the war, and they finally reach an understanding. All it took was nearly killing each other several times over the course of one beautiful night. And Emil says the very cliched thing, "We're the same, you and I," which, you know, F off. How bad could this script possibly be? As if it wasn't bad enough already. And De Niro decides not to kill Emil, which I'd still be pretty worried about. The guy did fly from Serbia specifically to kill De Niro. Whatever. They sit on top of the cliff, and we get another really nice vista. And De Niro tells him a bad joke. Emil says he doesn't understand it, and we close out the film with Emil returning to the bar in Serbia, back home. He's grown a mustache apparently, which I did not even notice. And while that's happening, De Niro visits his son at his house and brings a gift and says, "Sorry, I'm late." He enters the house and the film ends. And this, honestly, you mentioned the nature shots at the beginning of the film. I thought the end credits was pretty nice because I think it was just a cello song over some B-roll footage of the Appalachian Mountains. And I thought, this is pretty pleasant right now, honestly.
Yeah. All the nature stuff was nice. It was the only part I liked. I wonder if those. I was like, I would watch just like an hour of this footage. It's like, it's pretty chill.
Right. I wonder how much of it they shot versus was just footage available in like libraries that they could
really high quality
download.
Like stock footage.
Stock footage. Yep.
It certainly is much higher quality than any of the other footage in the film. So it would imply it was not shot by the same group of folks.
Yeah.
There you go.
A tangible difference in quality. Well, Mike, that was Killing Season. What would you rate this film out of 5?
I got to give it 1 star. It's hard to imagine how it could have been worse without being Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. And so that is my score. For what it's worth, I watched Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. I mean, you know this because you follow me on Letterboxd. I watched it like 2 weeks ago. It's terrible. It's really bad. So sticking with that. And sticking with my 1-star rating for this movie called Killing Season.
That's how memorable it is. Well, that's great. You know, at first, when I finished the film initially, I was thinking to myself, what's worse, this or Savage Salvation? And you're right. This is worse. There's nothing, not only is there nothing redeeming here, there's also nothing interesting here. So it is a bore to watch. It is a bore to see these phoned in performances. It is a bore looking at this ugly cinematography. So originally I gave it 1.5, but I slept on it. I talked to you about it. I recapped it, and you are absolutely right. This is a 1-star film. This is a heck of a way to start our second batch of 20 films in the podcast with. It is. Yep. I don't think it can get any worse.
It's hard to imagine. I agree.
Right. I think we're in the lowest tier of De Niro film right here in this borderline straight to VOD trash.
Yeah. Like, if this isn't in the bottom 5 when we do our end of show rankings, like, I'll be extremely surprised. This has got to be very bottom of the pack.
Right. There's truly nothing here. The only kudos I will give it is that I think it is nice that it was ostensibly about the Bosnian War, because that is not a setting that I've seen depicted in a film before. That's it.
I don't really know anything about it, to be honest.
Same. And there is a version of this film that could have been very good. This small scale, intimate, a drama thriller, but we got the least competent version possible.
Yeah. I read a lot about the Bosnian War this morning because I was thinking maybe we'll talk about that, but I don't think we need to talk about anything in this podcast. But that is the one takeaway from it for me, is that it got me to read a fun Wikipedia article about an interesting historical topic that I don't know if you have these kinds of blind spots. I like history a lot, and I have a blind spot from 1987 to 1995 because it's stuff that happened while I was a little kid, so I don't consider it history because I was alive, but I wasn't old enough to perceive it. So I don't have any information to build an understanding on, because it's I know it is now, of course, but in my mind 9/11 is not history. That's something that happened while I was a kid.
Right. But
I know a lot about it because I lived through the aftermath as a person forming memories. But I don't know, the Bosnian War happened when I was 5, and I've heard these names before. That's all I knew about it.
No, I agree. I have the same blind spots. I wonder if the listeners do too. Write in, let us know. Now it's time to move on to recommendations. Mike.
Sure.
What would you recommend instead of 2013's
I
Killing
have a good
Season.
one here.
yeah?
This is a recommendation to me as much as it is to you and to our listeners. And I
Okay.
probably should have looked up when this movie was made. Hang on. So I would like to recommend the 2005 David Cronenberg film, A History of Violence. As my recommendation this week. You ever seen it, Mike?
Yeah, once a while ago. Great film. I think at your recommendation.
Yep. So I thought about A History of Violence a lot while I was watching this film because I think that they have some shared thematic DNA, and I think they're telling kind of similar stories about like a man on the run, right? From like things that he's done in his past that he doesn't want to engage with, and like real harsh physical circumstances in his life force him to engage with those sins, and ultimately he comes out of it, you know, a better person, right? Like it's like there's a little bit of a redemptive quality to it. And, you know, A History of Violence paces itself really differently, and it chooses to spotlight different things in terms of the way it characterizes the people on the opposing sides of this conflict, in terms of how much time it spends on the violence and the brutality versus building tension and anticipation for those things. And it's just like night and day. You know, there are similar films, one deployed exceptionally successfully and one deployed exceptionally unsuccessfully. And History of Violence has great cinematography. It's got Viggo Mortensen in it. He's really good. And it's a really nice film. I would strongly recommend it, and harshly instead of watching this. No one needs to watch Killing Season.
That's a great recommendation. Great film. I'd love to rewatch that sometime once I get through all of these De Niro films.
Too.
Yeah. My recommendation is First Blood, the first Rambo movie. You ever watch First Blood?
That's a great movie. I have. Yep. Love that one.
It's an excellent film. It's one of those films where, again, I have these movie blind spots, and I didn't watch it until I was an adult. And I had this preconceived notion of Rambo as a macho action hero, which my understanding is that all of the sequels are much more like that. They really lean into that sort of tone. But the original movie, First Blood, it's a very small scale, intimate, dramatic film. The character of John Rambo is very tragic. He's a troubled Vietnam War veteran, and it is a similar sort of survivalist thriller in the woods kind of film, but it's so thematically resonant. It's a very compelling story. It's very affecting. And Killing Season was none of those things. So if you haven't seen the first Rambo film, First Blood, highly recommend it. It's a classic for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, First Blood is fascinating, right? Because I feel like it is the first and best movie in a series that, to your point, is like an archetype. But like the thing that it's an archetype for is not what First Blood does at all. First Blood is just like a really smart, really serious film, right? It's like totally similar to A History of Violence, where like the action that happens in it is deployed sparsely to great effect, which is really cool. That's not what happened in Killing Floor. Or Killing Season. I cannot remember the name of this movie. I have like a mental block. It's like it's not going into long-term memory. Like I will forget everything about this movie as soon as you and me hang up.
This is definitely one of the darkest weeks of the podcast.
Yep.
It's going to go down in history.
I enjoyed though when I was watching it knowing that you felt the same.
Oh yeah.
You know?
How
like,
could
it was
I not?
just fun to know, like even before you texted me your 2-word message, this movie with an ellipsis with like 12 dots. I was watching it and I was like, I know, like it's not like we're gonna disagree. I was like, this is one on which we will be perfectly aligned with one another, and like that, there's something nice about that.
I agree. On that note, it's time to roll for our next film. Mike, it is your turn to roll. How you feeling?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I was born ready. Let's do this.
All right.
I was looking.
I'm so excited. Yep, I pulled it up already. I'm ready.
Yeah, I was looking at De Niro's filmography, and we have some big chunks that we really haven't been able to cover yet. So I'm hoping for something from his early career.
Yeah, it would be nice. I mean, I'm of course still hoping for Silver Linings Playbook, but let's roll.
You know
Here
what?
we go.
Give me Limitless. I deserve it after Killing Season. Never seen it, but it sounds funny.
We have rolled 85. Oh, great. It's Killing Season. We don't have to do that.
You
All right,
rolled
let's
the
roll again.
same? Holy moly. Okay, reroll.
I did. Yep. We have rolled Somehow worse. 89. The Bag Man.
Never heard of it.
You and me both, sister. Oh my God. All right, you wanna tell me what you've seen about the Bag Man that's making you laugh in your 15 seconds on the Wikipedia article?
What made me laugh was seeing that it only made $462,000 at the box office. Holy moly. Never heard of it before.
It's got a 10 on Rotten Tomatoes.
This is going to be rough.
Are we doing back-to-back like
really bad movies? Holy moly. I guess, listen, I'd rather get them out of the way now,
is it
right?
At least short? Yes. All right. It's only 108 minutes. Good. Okay. At least it's another short one. Okay.
So if you watch along before the podcast comes out, the Bag Man is pretty short.
Man. All right. Okay. Sure.
Let's move over. We got a letter from friend of the pod, Andrew.
He's not a sometimes listener. He's an every week listener.
Yeah. What did I say?
Yeah. I was just drawing. It was just for emphasis.
Oh, okay. Andrew writes, after listening to the Score episode, I had a hypothesis about your approaches to media analysis. I discussed this with Mike, you, not me, during Guys Weekend, where we also learned that not everyone is a fan of media analysis. Based on Mike Back At You's approach to video games, mine, I think he's content to ingest media at face value and go along for the ride, as it were, although he clearly enjoys post-hoc discussions. Mike the Fab consumes entertainment with a critical eye and is constantly updating his frame of reference and predictions for themes and outcomes. Could either of you force yourselves to swap your approach for a film or two? How do you think that would go?
Oh, that's a really funny idea.
It is. I genuinely wonder if I could do it.
I don't know how we operationalize it.
Right.
I think we'd have to do it for one we've both seen. And it would have to be one, because we have to know that it's going to have... We need to know it's go. Oh yeah, that's right. But if we've seen it, we've already had that experience, right? So it's actually even harder. So it has to be one neither of us has seen. But to the comment I'm about to make, which I think is still true, it has to be one that we know has some literary depth to it, right? Because if there's just nothing there to see, then the experiment is invalid. Like I, with all my might, I could not find any literary depth in Killing Season. Like there just isn't anything there. It has no themes, as it were. I don't know. I'd like to do it, honestly.
Right.
I'd like to try and do this.
I'm open to trying it, but I would have to think, I would have to consume or engage with this art form completely differently. I don't even know how I would go about it. You're just constantly second guessing and trying to outthink the script. And listen, we could try it for the Bag Man if you want.
Yeah, it could be fun. Sure.
I mean, this movie doesn't seem like it has anything else going for it.
It's going to be another garbage movie, so at least let's make something fun about it. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. So it's going to be a special episode next week. We're going to try... I'm going to try to consume media like Mike with a critical eye and constantly updating my frame of reference and predictions for themes and outcomes. And Mike is going to go along for the ride. Good luck, buddy.
Yeah, like a smooth brain, Bambi.
That's marble. That's what they call me. On that note, let's go ahead and wrap this podcast up. Thank you to all the citizens of the De Niro Nation for listening this week. Thanks to Caroline, especially for the podcast artwork. Follow Mike and I on Letterboxd. He's Mike the Fab, and I'm Mike Back At You. And email us at ourherodeniro@gmail.com. We recently softened the rules for submissions. Write in. Send anything. We miss you.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew really slipped in that question at the end there. That letter was a minute of him being on the podcast.
Yeah, that's how it works. That's how it should work.
Yep.
It was a great letter. Good job, Andrew. And feel free to rate us in Apple Podcasts or Spotify if you so please, or even YouTube. We're everywhere. We're everywhere that you can consume a podcast. And we will see you next week with an episode about the Bag Man.